Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Anand from AppDynamics, Director of Product Marketing for Business IQ. And the man that I want to introduce you guys this morning to most likely doesn't need any introduction because you saw him all on the stage yesterday. We have Kaz Ali today from DixonsCarphone Warehouse. And just from outside looking in, what Kaz and his team is doing is really forefront of bridging the gap between IT and business and really thinking about not from application perspective, but thinking about from customer experience and business perspective. So I'm really happy and would like to welcome Kaz to this stage and walk you guys through how DixonsCarphone Warehouse is really using AppDynamics Analytics to influence the business outcomes. Yes. Thanks.
So thanks for the introduction, Mike. Just a quick show of hands, please. How many AppDynamics employees have we got in the room? And the rest of you, I'm hoping, are customers. How many existing customers? So most of you. OK, thanks for that. So yeah, as Mike said, I'm going to talk to you today about our kind of journey with AppDynamics, how we've started with APM, got into EUM, and then our usage of analytics a long time before it was called Business IQ or anything else. So I think we're slightly ahead of the curve on that one. So who am I? From the keynote you would have heard and from that introduction, so I have accountability for all of operations for DixonsCarphone. I'm going to play you a short video in a while that's going to show you exactly who DixonsCarphone are. And then, as I said, I've had accountability for service and operations, so all the stores, all the contact centers, all the telephony, all of our online applications and websites, and a couple of phrases that I like to use which kind of describe my vision and my approach to what I do. I'm in this to make technology dependable. That's what I want. I want it to be like a utility. You turn the tap, you get water. I want IT operations to be the same. But I'm fully aware that that is almost an impossible goal. I think you'll always have issues with IT, but I think our goal and aspiration has to be that far-reaching. We can't just be accepting of the fact that there will be IT issues and we can't do anything about it. I think the main message that I give all of my teams is that that is our goal and that's what we need to do. And linked to that is I want us to be using modern techniques to fix modern problems. And by that, I don't mean that we abandon all the traditional methodologies that exist out there, such as incident management and change management. I think they're very, very important. But I think for modern day problems, you have to find different ways of solving those. Otherwise, I think you'll find you're just banging your head against a brick wall and not really making any progress. So those two kind of phrases describe my approach to things. And you will hear a lot of reference in this deck to peak. And by peak specifically, although we have 4 or 5 peaks during the year for Dixons and Carphone, but I'm specifically talking about Black Friday, that great innovation that we have to thank all of the US for importing back into the UK. A real pressure cooker environment, all condensed into 24 hours of complete and utter craziness, basically. But I'll talk about that in more detail. So, Mike, if you can just play the video, please. So that's a brief insight into DixonsCarphone as an organization. So very quickly to summarize that then. So Dixons is the equivalent of Best Buy, a large CE retailer, predominantly in the UK, but we operate in a couple of other different European countries. Carphone Warehouse is the equivalent of Best Buy Mobile. In fact, Carphone Warehouse, through a joint venture with Best Buy a couple of years ago, created Best Buy Mobile in the US. Slide 4, please, Mike. It's disappeared. So I think in the next slide, I'm just going to go through exactly what you can expect in this next 42 minutes or so. So I'm going to talk to you about our journey into AppDynamics, what we've used it for, what we think the future usage of AppDynamics looks like for us as an organization. I'm going to talk to you about Peak, and it's important to us. And then I'm also going to be talking to you about our two specific use case scenarios of analytics at the moment. One for the Dixons side of the business and one for the Carphone Warehouse side of the business. So why do we need an enterprise APM solution? So Black Friday, that wonderful innovation that I talked about. In 2014 was the first year that Black Friday really hit UK, and we'd read a lot about it. We thought we knew what it was, what it would entail. And we planned for it in the same way that we would plan for any of other peak events. Now, this is specifically talking about the preparation on the Dixon side of the platform and what happened there. So we planned our capacity. We got the metrics as best as we could from our different line of businesses. We tried to understand what volumes they were predicting. And then we planned our capacity according to that. We did load testing. We made sure that we addressed whatever bottlenecks came up. We looked at all of our lessons learned. So where have we had issues previously? What did we do about them? Are we sure we fixed them? Load test again. And this continuous cycle. Nothing new from a perspective of planning and being ready. And this last point here. So we had our traditional IT technical dashboard. And that was specifically how's our CPU utilization, how's our memory utilization, how's our database performing. Nothing about end user experience there. It was all about technology in silos. How's the infrastructure stack looking? How's the network stack looking? But the bits in the middle, we were kind of saying, well, actually, if everything's okay, if the infrastructure's okay and the network's okay, our batches have all completed, our synthetic monitoring is saying everything's fine, then we think everything's okay. What happened on the day? We had an enormous amount of traffic hitting our websites. We initially thought it was a DDoS attack. We had our security team invoked. They investigated. They came back and said, actually, this is not a security attack. This is all legitimate traffic. We are just under an extremely phenomenal level of load that we have not experienced before. So we enabled our queuing system. That was something that we did not want to do because it wasn't the best experience for our customers. However, that was better than our customers getting a non-responsive website and then disappearing elsewhere. In the background, we were frantically building additional servers that we could put into the cluster, add to the load balancer, and then hopefully get people through that queue in a much quicker time frame. The question we just kept asking ourselves is, what could we do differently? How could we have had a different level of insight that could have led to us spotting the problem earlier, and maybe we could have dealt with it differently? These are the images of the websites themselves, and that's the queuing system that I refer to. Not great from a customer experience perspective, and it really got us thinking that we have to act on this differently in the future years. This was not an experience that we wanted to have time and time again, or ever again. The press obviously had a field day, and we weren't the only ones. The Carphone Warehouse website remained available and performed adequately, but other retailers also had issues. Not that that was of any significance to us, or it was just that we didn't want to be in that bracket of businesses who are having issues. So we went around and we got some quotes from various different people, our line of businesses, our technical teams, our service managers. And some of the things that they said helped us to form what we were going to do in the future. We were trying to work out how much of a problem did we actually have, how much visibility did we have today, and how much were we operating blind. And when we had this open discussion with people, you can see some of the quotes here, we were not being driven by customer experience. We were being focused, and our visibility was all about technology, not about customer experience. We were blind. It was taking a long time to resolve issues. These comments led us to really look at ourselves, work with our teams, and identify what we were going to do differently in the future, because we needed to be different. So in 2015, Black Friday planning for 2015 started as soon as 2014 ended. I mean, first week in January, we were talking about how we were going to be different, what we were going to do. We talked to our line of businesses and we established Black Friday was here to stay. This was not a one-year phenomenon. It was here to stay, and it's got bigger every single year. The predictions for this year are much bigger than last year, and last year was much bigger in 2014. So we've got no choice but to accept this as a retailer. Some retailers have decided they're not going to be part of it, and that's their decision, and I think that it kind of demonstrates where they are as organizations and how willing they are to accept changes in the industry that they operate in. We knew that we needed a step change, and we knew that we needed different approaches. We couldn't continue to work the way that we were. We couldn't continue to have the blind spots that we had, because that would be negligent on our part, and we wouldn't be doing our part in delivering the business its commitments. And this is where we started to really go down the path of, well, we are the business, because the business can't operate if the website is unavailable. So there's no point talking about the business like they're the e-commerce team. We are as much part of the business as they are. In fact, they are dependent on us. We are the fundamentals of that business. And this is where that thinking really started. And as we started to have the lessons learned for 2014 with our line of businesses, that's what that thinking started to really crystallize, not just in the IT teams, but also in the line of businesses, in the business units. So the introduction of AppDynamics. AppDynamics was already installed and used in a particular division in the business on a very small scale. So we were able to tap into that and start to pilot what they were doing, and start to look at, well, actually, what part of the problems or the jigsaw could this solve for us? I remember there was a bit of a jaw-dropping moment. The first time we installed the agents and we were able to see that topology flow of all of our different applications, and then collectively everybody in the room at that time and said, well, we've never seen that before. And that's come from just deploying some agents somewhere and collecting that information. And we thought, okay, that's the level of visibility that we haven't had before. And it wasn't a point-in-time visibility, it was a real-time visibility. So you can see how it's performing, what the response times are right now. The announcement yesterday around getting the visibility on the network layer as well is for us certainly an exciting time for us, because that is a level of visibility that we've not had in AppDynamics previously when we're using other tools to do it. Bringing all that together is going to bring another dimension to this from our technical observation perspective. We need to evolve our existing practices. The old way of managing capacity, the old way of doing demand management wasn't going to work. We knew that we had to be different. We knew that our identification of bottlenecks needed to be better. Some of the issues that we had during 2014, as it worked out, weren't issues on our side, they were issues on third parties. So we adopted a different approach to load testing, and now that we had got to the point where we deployed AppDynamics across a large part of the estate, we were able to see where our load testing, which was being performed on our production platform, out of hours for the customer, we were able to identify where problems were, where the bottlenecks were. Some were internal, some were within the code, some were within other internal systems further down the line, such as stock lookup, but others were in third parties. And we were able to use this data to work with our third parties and say, well, actually, you've got the problem, not us. And you're going to affect us during our peak services. We adopted a different approach from a management perspective of the event, which we call the command center. So managing incidents is one thing, but managing the overall event of peak required us to take a different approach as well. But we needed visibility in order to do that. So one thing that we said that we were going to do as part of the command center model was that we were going to have real-time visibility in as much of the application estate as possible, looking at what the customer experience has been. So we got into AppDynamics further. We started working on business transactions. We started working on health rules. And then we started building these dashboards, and I'll show you the dashboards in a minute. The dashboards became the focal of everything that we were doing. So we wanted to build dashboards that would allow not only the technical teams, but also the business teams to look at dashboards and get a real-time view of the health of the customer experience. Not how much CPU have I used, what's my memory looking like, how's my database performing, but what is the customer experience at a particular journey? Because while most retail is not that complicated, you go into a retail clothing store, you pick up a shirt, you go to the till, you buy it, that's it, that's done. There's no credit check involved. There's no bank validation involved. There's none of this calls to third parties. There's none of the plethora of different variants of tariffs that you can choose or care plans, etc. Electronics retail, both CE and mobile phone retailing, is a complicated business. So to have that dashboard that could show you where performance was for each of those different journey elements was really important. The technical observation centers were a component of the command centers, and this is where, David Wadwani mentioned it yesterday, we've got this room full of screens where we have these dashboards and we have people observing performance at critical times in trading. For Black Friday, we'll have that not only on the day for 24 hours, we'll have it running from 3 days previous and a week afterwards, where we'll have people sat in that room looking at this information, trying to spot trends, trying to spot variances in response time before they impact the customer, and then getting our teams to engage through the command center model to do something about it. Application complexity. This is the view that we saw first, and we said, wow, that was a jaw-dropping moment. We did a very rapid deployment. In just 2 weeks, we deployed 1,500 AppDynamics agents over 39 tier 1 applications. So it's not just about store systems, it's not just about online systems. It was about how do you get to the systems that each of those other key retail systems talk to, whether it's supply chain, whether it's repairs, whether it's fulfillment, whether it's payment services, whatever it is. So it was a quite big deployment, and we were able to see third-party dependencies as well. When we overlay the network visibility on this, then I think this is going to get even more powerful for us. TIBCO state. Now, the reason why I put that there is because these systems are not simple. They are complicated, they have lots of services, and you need a way to be able to slice through all of that information very quickly and identify where you've got problems. Now, I'm not an AppDynamics expert, but my team absolutely are able to get to the bottom of problems quicker now than they ever could before because they have that visibility. They're able to identify where the hotspots are, drill down, look at their code, use the other tools that they have at their disposal as well, and then bring that all together and say, right, that's where the problem is. And we can see it in visualizations like this one. You can drill down to specific items of code to see, well, how am I performing for the specific item of code? In this scenario, it's basket confirmation. How is that working? Is my percentage of very slow transactions higher than normal? Is it against the baseline, etc.? Drill down to it in various different time slots, and this was quite healthy. This is a view of the dashboard that we created. At the top, you've got the metrics that show the journey for our retail performance, retail channel, sorry, and at the bottom, we've got online. Now, the funnel that you'll see there, and you'll probably cast your mind back to what was shown yesterday through analytics. This is not a funnel we built through analytics. This is something we built through APM and EUM as well, and browser analytics. This became the center of everything that we do from a peak management perspective. We have these dashboards running in multiple parts of our office. We have mobile versions of this dashboard, which I'll show you shortly, and this became the central place that we would look at for any issues in anywhere in our platform. So if it was a stock check issue, we would see it here. If it was an upgraded eligibility check, we would see it here. If it was an issue with trying to create a customer lead or manage a customer through our sales platform, we would see it here. At the bottom, we've got a specific example for a specific product. So this was during the iPhone 6 and iPhone 6s launches. So we were focused on just that part of the website and how we were seeing traffic traverse and get through that particular part of the funnel. So as I said, we'd created smaller versions of these dashboards as well so that we could give to the business exec. Now, it was something that I had to pay a lot of consideration to. Was I comfortable giving this information to the CMO, to the CEO, and they see something go amber, and the first thing they're going to do is call me? Then we decided, actually, that's not something to fear, that's something to embrace. We need to be confident that if we have done this right, we've got no problem with them seeing it as amber, because we will know it's amber before they do, and we are doing something about it. If they call us and we haven't spotted it, then that means we have failed. So it was a great way of setting the challenge up for myself and my teams to say, let's give them the visibility. Let them have it on their iPads and on their phones. And we will be confident that we will deal with it in a way that gives them confidence as well. So again, some more in-depth drilling down capability of AppDynamics. We can see where we've done load tests previously. We can see where the load increases. We're able to drill down to items of code. We're able to spot where we thought the bottlenecks were going to be, and then we can put that into our development and release cycle and get all of those things completed. Now, before we had AppDynamics, we were still doing load testing, but this level of detail wasn't there. We were running synthetic monitoring. We were trying to put in performance monitoring as well using our in-house built scripts, etc. But this meant that we didn't have to do that, and all parts of our application were being covered by AppDynamics as soon as the agent was installed, rather than anything specific that we were doing from a scripting perspective. So we used it. It was a quiet day on Black Friday 2015, which was great, and I like to think that was because of all the hard work and planning that we'd put in, the number of changes that we put in, the command center model that we had. However, there was a small issue, which if we had not had the dashboards that we had, we would not have been able to pick up, and it would have impacted customers. We saw a sudden spike in error rates. So the team reacted to it straight away and said, hold on a second, what's going on there? Let's pick that up. What we found was that there was a particular call to a particular part of code that was showing up as taking a longer time to respond than anything else. When they looked at the visualization of number of errors, they could see there was the sharp increase. And then they were able to pin it down to the get address part of the application. So when a customer goes through the journey, we have to validate their address from a payment or from an upgrade eligibility perspective. And it was a key part of the site between the customer performing the journey that they need to then converting them to the sale that was required. So we were able to drill down into that very quickly, identify the problem, find the part of the code that had the issue. It turned out it was actually the code that didn't have the issue, but it was one of the instances of Tomcat was running hot. Although CPU and memory hadn't been breached, we were able to take that out of the cluster, restart it independently. There was no impact to any customers. We dealt with it. In total, it was dealt with in about 15 to 20 minutes. No impact to customers. The site remained available. We were able to turn around to the business and tell them that we had an issue, we dealt with it, and it didn't impact the customer. That was a phenomenal change from what we'd had previously, where we were saying, CPU memory's okay, there's no problem. We would have had the issue, there would have been impact, and we would have communicated it as an incident. Here, we communicated it as a good news story. We said, by the way, you didn't see anything because there was no impact, but we dealt with this in this time frame. This is the visibility that we had. So in the post-peak pack that we sent out, this was one of the examples that we gave around the proactive activities that we have performed. So that's our history, kind of like up to date on where we've used AppDynamics. And now I'm going to give you two examples of what we're doing with analytics and how we're using it to make a difference. So firstly, analytics for us, we looked at it and thought, actually, this is a part of the product that we can use to unlock further benefits because we approached this from a visibility perspective initially. We knew we had gaps, we wanted more visibility, and that's how we approached it. Here, when we started looking at the capability of analytics, we started to spot that actually there's other parts of this product suite that can give us information that we are unable to receive from current products that we've got. So we start investigating those, and we suddenly were faced with getting questions from particularly the e-commerce director around, can you show me this bit of information? Can you show me website performance and conversion sliced this way for this type of customer, customers on these type of devices, etc. So we were able to, not straight away and immediately, but we were able to drill down, get the knowledge and capability that was required from AppDynamics, and then get to the bottom of those questions and then provide that back to the business. Again, that was another step change in the way that we were engaged by our business units. It was they're a source of information, they've got tools at their disposal that allow them to slice data differently, and I want to see that data. So it became quite powerful from a relationship perspective. But also we wanted to make sure we were using the right product for the right information. Like I said, we had current tools for analytics, and we're using those for serving other purposes. But analytics, AppDynamics Analytics was able to give us information on a different scale altogether that was, you'll see shortly, was quite insightful. So what can we use analytics for? And this is an exercise we went through with the business, and we said, well, actually, there's a whole host of questions that we can potentially answer. But we've got to start with the right question, the question that we can stand a chance of answering, because we were still new to the analytics part of the product suite. And we said, well, let's pick the right question. And in the use case one that I'll talk about shortly, that's where the right question came into being. But these are all questions that we will look to answer using analytics as we mature in our usage of it, our understanding of it. And we've got the right capability both internally in the IT departments, but then also in the business teams as well. Because we're not only using this in e-commerce, we're using this in our retail platforms as well. So you would have seen in the video, tablet-based journey. That is our guided sales application, and we know how important that is to our business. And one of the metrics that we're looking to pull out of using analytics is, what is the performance of the application on every single tablet? Not at a store level, not on a regional level, but every single tablet, every single transaction that is going through there. Because my goal and my vision is where I want to be able to get to, is I want to be able to say to my CEO, we are watching every single credit check, every single eligibility check, every single activation that is going through the platform. Be it online or be it retail, eventually contact center, we have eyes on it. And by that I mean, we will know if a threshold has been breached. If an eligibility check should complete in 20 milliseconds and it takes 50, we'll know about it. So that's where we want to get to, and that's where we will answer more of these questions using analytics. But to start off with, we wanted to make sure that there was a specific use case scenario, and we wanted to trial this out using that use case scenario and then further our understanding of the product. Before I do that, I just want to talk very quickly about analytics, where I think it can go. So I think, as with any industry and any innovation, any technology, I think it's go through a maturity curve. And I think right now we're in what I would call in the descriptive phase, where it's about knowing how you get hold of the data. Because that's the first step. Knowing what data you need, but then also, how do I get hold of it? If it's going to take a long time or it's very laborious to do, that's not somewhere where you're going to explore. And chances are you'll give up on that request. Chances are you'll say, that's too difficult, it takes too long, and by the time I get the data, it's old anyway, so I don't need it. It's the first part. And I think that's where we are from a analytics perspective today, where we now know how we get the data, and we know how easy it is to get the data, and we're figuring out how do we use that data to our advantage. The second phase for me in the predictive sense is, once you've got the data, what is it telling you? And at the moment, you have to interpret that manually. Now, I'll give you an example. So one of the things that we've found and I'll talk about it more in the use case one, we found that of all of our slow transactions, 10% were coming from one particular affiliate redirect. So we had to get the data. We knew how to get the data. Then we had to interpret it ourselves and spot the patterns. And what I'm talking about when I say predictive is getting the ability to spot those patterns itself and building that common pattern and saying, here's information for you. So then this is the maturity curve that I would like to see analytics going on. And lastly, it's being able to automatically implement the change that you're looking for based on preset conditions. So as an example, if it sees that all of our upgrade eligibility text for a particular network, let's just say Verizon, is failing for 15 minutes, I'm going to lose those customers. So why do I not have the capability based on analytics to be able to say, it's failing, we're now going to take this predetermined action, which might be, I'm going to send your details in a chat window to a contact center agent who can call you directly. Or it might be, we can offer you these other networks. Verizon wouldn't be very happy about that, but we have to make sure that the customer, it doesn't get lost in the ether, and then complete the transaction. And I think that, for me, I just wanted to very quickly talk about where I think the evolution of analytics can go to. It's no different to any other industry. Look at cars today. You know, you turn your ignition, you get information on the dashboard, you then take some action, and then you've got today where you've got the automotive industry looking at self-driving cars, etc. So any industry has innovation and maturity, and I think analytics is no different from that perspective. So the first use case scenario that we had was understanding customer experience down to granular levels. So we launched a new web platform, and we noticed that there was a slight downturn in NPS. And we thought, okay, maybe some teething problems with the new website. We'll wait until it stabilizes. But this issue wasn't going away. So our business units came to us and said, how do we find out what's going on here? Because everything looks okay. The number of hits coming to the website, the conversion funnel looks okay, but NPS is a problem. So some of our customers are not happy. We need to find out what's common to those customers. So what we started to do was we looked at analytics, and we were able to get information based on browser, device, operating system. And we were able to look at not just Samsung as a manufacturer, but all the different products that Samsung provides. So what type of handset are you using? What type of iPhone are you using? What iPad are you using? Android devices, Windows devices, PC, workstations, etc. And we were able to spot an issue. And the issue was that any Android user on a Samsung S6 below was getting different performance levels on specific PDP pages, so our product pages on our website, than anybody on an S6 or an S7 or an iPhone user. So the problem wasn't for iPhone users, they were fine. But Samsung users who had phones, handsets that were below an S6, who are our prime market, they are the people that we want to do the upgrades, they had issues. So when we spotted that, and then we started to overlay the NPS scores, which comes from a completely different third party. You get to rate your experience, you get to fill out information on the website. When we started overlaying the two, we were then able to spot this trend and say, okay, we need to do something about that. Our prime customers are the ones who are experiencing issues. What do we do about it? Immediately, that problem goes back to the e-commerce team to say, you need to look at the weight on those PDP pages, because while it's met the NFR that you set, it's not meeting the requirements of those users. So if those users are important to you, you need to do something about that. And they had to make decisions such as reducing images sizes, reducing the content on those pages. But that was not an IT problem. That was a problem in the business that we were helping them identify using analytics. So it no longer became a reactive and diagnostics tool, but it became a business insight tool. And we've just scratched the surface with this at the moment. We still need to build our knowledge and usage of analytics, work out what the right questions are, and then go after answering those questions. This one came about because we had a real-life issue. We saw NPS as being a problem, and we went after the data that we believed was in analytics to support that investigation. It was phenomenal in helping us, again, become as one with the business. Right? This was not a scenario where It was the business are pointing fingers at IT and saying you've developed a really poorly performing platform. It was a case of, well, actually, we can drill down and show you where the problem is. It's not at the overall level. It is specific users. It is specific handsets. And we together identify that information and we can do something about it. Naturally, that helps to develop better and deeper relationships because I'm no longer at the trading meeting just talking about issues that we've had. We're talking together about what we're doing to identify better opportunities to convert customers who are on our web platforms. One important statement, we started with the problem statement and not the tool. So we understood what the problem was, and then we used a tool to see if we could find that answer. We didn't say, here's the tool, let's just try and find out what problems we've got. It was, what is the problem statement? How do we best achieve an answer to that problem? And the end result of what we're looking for is no surprising customer experience levels. Now we have a dashboard that came as a result of this exercise, which is the business have this dashboard. I'll just explain it very quickly. So it's by device type, by PDP, you can see the number of requests and the response time. Now, it took a bit of education with the business users around what does DOM ready mean, what does end user response time mean. The website development was in such a way, just like similar to Facebook, where you can log onto Facebook and what you see on your screen is available, although the scroll behind it might still be updating. It was the same with the web platform that we'd built. But we're able to build this dashboard using the analytics information that we've got. Now, the business will look at that, and they will look at this when they have their NPS results every week before they send it to us to say, what was the problem? Why did NPS go down? Because you didn't tell me you had any incidents last week. Well, they can look at this, and they can establish whether or not any of their PDP pages are causing that NPS drop. So business enrich pages all the time. They load images, they load context, they load videos. They can see for themselves the impact that is having on PDP pages and the usage and the performance to customers without us, from an IT perspective, having to necessarily get involved in that. From time to time, they will come to us and say, well, we saw this anomaly, can you help us understand it? And we wouldn't want the business just to be completely out there, not speaking to us at all, because we want to learn from their usage of this as much as possible as well. So the second use case scenario is, as we were showing the dashboards last year and this year's iPhone launch to our trading, our MD for trading, he asked us a question. He said, actually, can you get me information then on my sales figures? And we said, okay, don't know, but we'll have a look. He says, because today I have an in-house tool that does the job, but it's 45 minutes behind. And I can't slice it and dice it how I want to. Can you use AppDynamics and Analytics, which we've deployed across our retail systems and our pinpoint application? Can you help me see that? And we said, okay, we'll take it away. And then we started to think, actually, this would be really useful to us from an IT operations perspective, because we can see real-time statistics on number of credit checks volume of credit checks being performed, not just performance, how many credit checks going through in 20 milliseconds, but volume. We might be able to spot a trend that's caused by IT somewhere, or a change in pricing that the business have performed. The dashboard itself is not, there's nothing great about this dashboard other than the metrics that are in there. So the numbers that you see on here are sample numbers, because I couldn't show you our commercially trading numbers. That would be not great. But what we did was we had one of these dashboards created for each of our different networks, so EE, Vodafone, O2, etc., split by device. So they're able to see real-time how many activations have been performed, how many credit checks, how many eligibility checks, etc. And we had one of these for each of the different network manufacturers as well. So where do we go next with this? I think we've got a phenomenal amount still to learn. The use cases are, we're having to bat them away from the number of requests that we're getting from the business to say, can you show us this? Can you help us with this? Can you help us understand this real time? Because in a retail trading environment, and specifically because of Black Friday, where you have no time to react, you have 24 hours to get that sale. So if a competitor is doing something, you need to be able to change your prices, and you need to be able to immediately see what the impact that is having. But you don't want to do that to the detriment of performance, and you don't want to do that to the detriment of any other sales that you're having anywhere else. So having that real-time visibility is going to be key, and I can expect us to get more and more demands for that. I think our internal knowledge and capability of this needs to grow, and we will grow it working with AppDynamics. Expanding adoption is going to happen naturally, like I've said. We are batting away requests from various different business units around, can you do this? Can you help us see this information? That will happen naturally. We need to be able to find a way that we can fulfill all of that demand being placed on us. Otherwise, we run the risk of people doing it their own way and trying to look at other tools, etc., which won't be as integrated as this. We want to get AppDynamics used in our release cycle so that we are performance testing and baselining our performance in releases before they come to production. That's a challenge that we've got with a change in the process that exists today. We want to evolve our dashboards. Those dashboards were created in 2015, and we've evolved them, but we want to get to a place where we are looking at more side-by-side, as you saw yesterday, business dashboards information, system information, and then the conversion information in the middle. And I want to build out a customer experience team. So my vision all along has been, I want to be able to say that we have eyes on every single key transaction that's going through any of our sales channels. And I want to be able to fulfill that. I think I've got the tool that can do that job. I need now the capability internally, as well as using my partners, and build a team that is doing this operationally for all of our different peak periods. Open the floor to questions.
Okay.
Did you run into any issues where in your e-commerce technology stack, you had technology that wouldn't lend itself to AppDynamics monitoring it?
Not in our e-commerce stack. We had challenges with some of the application instances in our retail systems, which are much older than our e-commerce platforms. However, we found ways to overcome those, whether it was translating the information or it was putting the information into a different format so that AppDynamics could engage with it. There's certain applications that it cannot. On the Dixon side, we've got some quite legacy applications with some home brew of C that's developed in, which just doesn't work. And we understand that for those types of technologies, we've got to find a different approach.
So what did you do?
So on some applications, we decided this is not fit for purpose, right? The amount of effort required to make that work was just not worth it at all. So we made some decisions on those. And everything else, and maybe it was fortunate for us, but most other of our retail applications and our online applications, it worked.
So in your flow of, I guess, the user experience, starting from visiting the page all the way down to, I don't know what you call it, completion or purchase. Or,
Yeah.
So did that flow of transaction touch those systems which you couldn't monitor?
No.
And then okay, it did. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You mentioned having, kind of some proactive monitoring and your wall of screens. Do you have? So my company's trying to do the same kind of thing, trying to get proactive about it. Do you have any like white books or any good advice on what you need to key on? I know it's going to be different depending on your services, but there's got to be some sort of best practices in terms of you can forget about these things. Here's a good way to see some proactive things.
Yeah, I think with any type of reporting, you need to work out, well, what is that information going to drive me to do? Can I make a decision based on what I'm seeing? And if the answer is no, then it's not the right thing, right? You need to. What we did was basically got a whiteboard, and we jotted up all the different types of things that we want to see: number of connections, number of users, hour on hour, week by week, compared to last week, compared to last Black Friday. We did this brainstorming with a lot of our operational teams. And some of the things came up like, I need to know what my database is like. And we've been doing this for, I've been with the organization 11 and a half years, and we've been looking at database performance as one of the key things to look at for a number of years. But actually, it's too late. So when we did the whiteboarding session, we got all of these up, and then we just ranked them and said, right, is that going to help me make a decision reactively or proactively? And for the ones that were proactive, we said those are the ones that we need a way of reporting on. The reactive ones are still important, and technical guys still need to look at those, but we're not going to spend our time, because they've got the tools to do that already, we're not going to spend our time trying to solve those. We want to solve these proactive elements that we've got. So that's how we prioritize what we were looking at on those screens.
And did you have a combination of ops people and dev people in the same room to kind of figure out some of the things you need to look at?
Yeah, we had all sorts. We had development, we had service management, we had operations, we had our architects. We had pretty much everybody, and everybody had their say as to what they thought that was important, because everybody brings a different perspective. I think the service guys and the operations guys are just too focused on the here and the now, whereas the architects and other people can say, well, actually, you need to look at that component, because that's further up the chain, and if there's a problem there, you have 5 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour to deal with it before it starts affecting the customer. And it was that sort of insight that we needed from our architects.
Can I just do a follow-up? How did you first time reach to business and helped, connect the dots? So if somebody's sitting in the audience that wants to reach out to business, where does it start? Should they take an application? Should they just make a friend, find a friend? What would you say?
So I think pick a friendly is definitely the first bit of advice. Don't pick your most complicated business journey, and don't pick your most difficult business stakeholder, because you'll just go round and round in circles. And then we just mapped out the journey and said, okay, so in the most appropriate way, what are those journey steps? And then we went through a few iterations, because in some instances we got really low level, stock lookup query X, Y, and Z. And it was like, okay, so what's the customer journey there? Well, actually, it fits in part of journey 4 and 5, so we'll slot that in that way. And then we found that actually the best people to involve in that conversation were the BAs who were involved in designing the systems and the requirements, because they understood the end journey better than anybody from a customer perspective. Architects understood it from a technology perspective, but the BAs understood it from a customer perspective.
So in your keynote presentation yesterday and some of the dashboard you showed, you exposed some sale volume, cash flow, and stuff like that. That's all. Some of those will be PI, PCI compliance issues. How did you, or what kind of security challenges did you find to protect that kind of information to be accessed by everyone?
So yeah, we did have a challenge with regards deploying AppDynamics in our PCI zone. But there was no great Houdini trick there at all. It was just a case of satisfying the information security policy and the questions that those guys had with regards to where's this data, where's it going. And I think once we'd addressed, because we have a SaaS implementation, once we'd addressed those concerns by just letting the information security guys talk directly to AppDynamics, really, to say, okay, these are our policies and principles. How are you abiding with these? Where's the data stored, et cetera, et cetera.
I think my question was more towards, you have dashboards that could be accessed by everyone. So were there any security policies applied that says only these people are supposed to view the dashboard, because again, there's a sensitive information? I'm not concerned about where the data is stored. My concern is more about the dashboarding. You're exposing a lot of information there. A lot of information that could be used in many different ways.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a fair challenge. So one of the things that we did was we decided very carefully where these dashboards would go up, which rooms, which visibility, customers walking around the building. We have suppliers walking around all the time. Can they see all this information? So anything to do with sales related was only in the technical observations room. All the other screens that we have don't have the sales information on there. And then we had a discussion about, well, actually, how much of this is commercially sensitive and what is not. So we got guidance from both our commercial team and our information security team on what can we show in a dashboard that's publicly available, if you like, in the canteen that people can see if they're walking past, versus what do we need to keep hidden behind in our technical observations room.
Yeah, so it's just to add, it's a great question. We do have a lot of role-based access controls features that are in the product that you can also use to limit who has access by people or by group. And you can also, if you're sending reports or they're pulling this data, they're looking at this data, you can secure it. Number of features that allow you to control that piece of information and keep it locked up.
Yes, so I had a question regarding the business view and executive view dashboards that you did on iPad and iPhone. Did you leverage the dashboarding capability within AppDynamics to just basically publish that to those folks, or did you use APIs to build those visualizations on those devices?
So it's everything, sorry, it was within AppDynamics. We didn't build anything specific from an API perspective. I don't think there's anything massively clever that the guys did. I mean, we didn't quite understand how it was going to be done. It was the AppDynamics professional services guys who came in and said, okay, we've developed this dashboard, we know what we're doing here, and when we said we need this visible on a mobile device, it's through the AppDynamics app on a mobile device. And basically the dashboard is you just publish the dashboard onto that account, and then you get them quite straightforward.
Great question. Anybody else?
My question is about whether you would recommend the use of Business IQ to digital teams that maybe use other tools, and if so, why?
So it's a good question. We've got our digital teams evaluating the usage of Business IQ versus other tools that they've got, such as Omniture and Google Analytics. And there are scenarios that Business IQ has information that they can't get from either of those two other tools. So they're still in the process of evaluating that, and we're going to run through Peak with all of those tools. But like I said in my presentation, it's about using the right tool for the right job. And in some instances, Business IQ won't be the right tool to get information out. So if you want, I don't know, I'm not an expert on any of the other analytics tools, but I know speaking to the e-commerce director that there are instances where they will continue to use Omniture for that bit of information. And that's fine, because I'm not trying to push for replacement of any other tools. This is about what other information can we get. And if there's a crossover or duplication, then they can decide where they want that information from. On the other hand, if they find that they can replace a tool with this information, then all the better as well. Because this is integrated to the application, it's coming directly and it's coming in real time, versus I know the other tools, they're getting information that is half an hour, 45 minutes behind.
For the NPS data that you looked at, is there a way to integrate or feed in other sources of data into AppDynamics so you can look along the same timelines? You know, you're looking at the last 15 minutes, last 2 hours, last 2 weeks, or did you have to do that separately?
So for our sales information, I don't know how they've done it, by the way, so I don't know if Mike can answer that question. But for our sales information, we're definitely doing that. So we are looking at historical information being provided in the same visualization. So what is it like this last 15 minutes? What was it like for the same 15 minutes yesterday and last week? So we have that there. That information, I think, is coming from different places. It's not coming directly from analytics because we didn't have analytics in place last year. So it is being fed from other places.
Yeah, and just to add, I think we do have APIs that allows you to bring external data sources. For example, you might have CRM data that you want to know about the profile of a customer, whether they're silver, gold, platinum, whatever, right? So you can bring in that data source, any external data source, pretty easily into the system. The beauty of it is that that data source is then going to get correlated to the business transaction that we identify out of the box, right? So, you know, if you bring in that Kaz is a gold customer, well, any interaction that Kaz is doing through the website and logging in, checking out, that he's a gold customer, that data source will then get connected automatically to the business transaction. So because we have that needle, now that custom data gets correlated to that needle, and then you're going to get better insights from it. So yeah. Any others? Well, I want to thank Kaz. Thank you very much. Great session. Hopefully you guys learned something. Thanks.